Pick the Nintendo Shack and pray. Frederick from Fire Emblem Awakening says, yo.
Greetings, Koopalings, and welcome back to the Nintendo Shack, the weekly Nintendo show on the PSVG network of podcasts. Tonight we record episode 161, featuring very special guest from GameXplain, Andre Segers. We're going to chat all about Age of Calamity and much, much more, but before we get there, let me thank those that support the show over at patreon.com/PSVG. So thank you, Edwin Callow, Barry Cathcart, Josh, the Bonesaw Borboni, Chris McElfresh, Devin Tyus, Kyle Heyman, Michael Masick, The Eggshin, Zach Bradshaw, Nick Farhaber, Paul Calicote, Rude Days 93, Rob Emanuel, Grouchy Surge, and Ben Moxham. Joining me in the Nintendo Shack as they do each and every week is our own Rebecca the Forest Minish, as well as the blandest of explosions, Garrett. How are you guys?
Pretty good.
This has felt like a long week, and it's only Tuesday.
I know. Yeah, because we're recording early to get everything out in front of Thanksgiving, Turkey Day. I know me at work trying to get done with work so I can just take a few days off. That'd be great. Much welcomed. And we had a Zelda game come out. That's always super exciting, which is why we brought in the special guest, the ringer, Andre from GameXplain. So, dude, thanks for coming by the Nintendo Shack. I have watched GameXplain, as I imagine many Nintendo fans have for many years, and I was hook, line, and sinker GameXplain during the Wii U era in an entire generation where it felt like you guys were one of the only folks that were really providing comprehensive coverage. I imagine I can't be alone with that. So I got to ask you, what's with the PlayStation videos? Can we stop with that? Like, they don't have enough people covering them now?
Who invited our comments section to this podcast?
But for reals, thanks for coming by the show, man. It's an honor to have you here in the Nintendo Shack, and I'm very excited to talk Age of Calamity. But before we do get into any of the Age of Calamity spoiler stuff, it's going to be spoiler free. We're not going to talk about any of the stories, elements, or anything like that. Not all of us have beaten the game. We're all at different places, so feel comfortable, safe to listen to. We're not going to do any of that. But before we get into that, does anybody have any questions for Andre or anything that you want to chat about?
I would just be interested in Andre talking a little bit about kind of the process of starting GameXplain. I know you've probably talked about that a lot in the past, but then also GameXplain has been going through a lot of changes recently. If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I have talked about starting GameXplain a fair amount, especially since we just had our 10th anniversary this year, which is wild to me.
Wow.
Yeah, what a year to have our 10th anniversary in 2020. What a great year it's been. So I guess, yeah, just to start things off, I was excited to do my own thing. I felt like there was a gap in Nintendo coverage. Before GameXplain, I'd worked at outlets like IGN and GameSpot, and, they did great work, but I felt like there was a niche not being filled by them for the hardcore Nintendo gamer. And I realized, like, when I was writing the articles that I wrote for those websites, I'm like, I want to do even more of this. Like, I feel like there's more that can be done with Nintendo. So GameXplain just ended up being basically what my version of what I thought IGN or GameSpot could be that were geared toward the Nintendo audience. With our own spin as well, of course. But lots of inspiration from my work history and, putting our own twist on things. And yeah, it was pretty rough going initially. I burned through my entire life savings over the course of 2 years trying to get things started. Then luckily it started paying off because apparently, before it started paying off, in hindsight, starting during the Wii U era essentially was perhaps not the best idea, but I think that's also why I credit with our success. It's because no one else was covering Nintendo. So even though the market share was smaller, there wasn't any competition really. The big sites would cover the main games, of course, and your Marios and your Zeldas or whatever Marios and Zeldas there were during that period. But there was a lot of smaller content that was being ignored, or even in-depth content about those games that just, there was a big gap. So I think with us filling in during that time period, it just kind of gave a lot of people, a place to go to where they could hear like-minded individuals give their opinions and thoughts about all Nintendo games. So yeah, that's how we got started. Things have been going pretty well. And then this year happened, 2020. And And I guess with me just wanting to leave 2020 behind, it took that to an extreme. No, I'm kidding. So basically, I think what ended up happening this year is, we've had a bit of staff turnover, partially because I think what's happening now is people who have been with GameXplain for years, some of which the greater part of a decade, basically are where I was at 10 years ago myself, where I wanted to do my own thing, wanted to spread my wings, try out my own content, and make something work. And I think, I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. And I think they're looking at exploring the same kind of terrain now. So we have a whole new crew here, basically, some new staff members who have filled in excellently during these times, during what was a, the fourth quarter is always a tricky season to come into a new group, new crew, new website, or, to join a website rather, or YouTube channel. And yeah, it's been going great though. Tris handled our Age of Calamity review, which thank God I would not have had time for it. And so it's been going well. So it's, change is always a little bit scary, but it's also really exciting at the same time. And I'm really looking forward to what we have coming up for the next year. As we actually do leave 2020 behind. We're going to try some new things. We're rebooting the podcast. We're doing a whole lot. As you can see, this is a world premiere of the new green screen we got, which in hindsight, I should put a Zelda background. So I'm already screwing things up.
I can empathize a little bit. We've got quite a big team over here at PSVG ourselves. I think we're about 15 deep now, and we've had several folks come and go as they come through. And we're not a paying gig either. So for us, it's got to be much, much harder to find folks. So if I may try to get a peek behind the corner, what is it that you look for in folks? Oftentimes, when I reach out for folks, even Garrett and Rebecca, like I wanted to record with them beforehand. I wanted to get an actual kind of a feel for what they would bring to the table and how we would, communicate that chemistry that we'd have on air together. And I've done the same thing for Xbox Show. Do you guys do anything like that? Or do you just do you look for folks that are already doing stuff like Rebecca, already have a streaming channel that are already doing things, or already have a Twitter following?
Yeah, so it's been a little bit different this time because in the past we were just kind of like a Katamari ball where we just kind of like absorbed people by rolling into them. Like,
that sounds like us.
Yeah, exactly. So it was all pretty natural up until recently. Not that it was unnatural, just I would say it was more professional how we went about things more recently, where we actually posted an official job opening, which went from what was planned to be 1 initially up to 3. So it effectively hired 3 people at the same time, and that was a very different process because in the past it was more like, we collaborated with people and then they just kind of like naturally became a bigger part of the channel. And this time it's like, we need people pretty soon. How are we going to go about this? So we had hundreds of applicants. Going through all those was quite an experience, and it was very interesting to be on. I've never officially been on this side of the hiring process. I mean, Sure. Obviously I've been, we've had people join GameXplain, but we've never had the official interview thing until now. And it's a little bit weird being on this side of things, in that I honestly felt bad for how many people were applying and were excited to work for us. I was like, man, I wish we had like a couple hundred positions open. Because
it's got to be really flattering, right? Like you stepped out on your own, you were doing this own thing, and then you get to sit back and you're like, look at all these people that want to join this.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely humbling. Like it's nice. I mean, it's nice and weird sometimes to be reminded of what GameXplain is, because it's easy to forget that too. Like, I work from home, I have this green screen, as you can see, like I don't see a whole lot of people during the workday. And it's easy to forget that we are reaching a fairly sizable audience, and seeing how many people like actively want to work for us is really fun and humbling. But it also sucks because, I hate letting people down. And, especially how lengthy the process was. It was probably, I think it was a 4-month hiring process, figuring out who exactly we're bringing on. But yeah, it was cool and, humbling at the same time. But to get back to the original question, what we were looking for it was a few things. One, having a video history experience, specifically with gaming was a requirement. Like you had to have some kind of history involving games. So we can see what kind of content you've already made and what kind of content you might be capable of making. We had a lot of people who had worked in video and, clearly like knew what they were doing, but when it came to the gaming side, like we just didn't have time to make sure that they had the knowledge needed to, either in terms of the gaming sphere or when it came to making videos about it, that we had to just rely on gaming content they've already made. Like they had to hit the ground running pretty much in this position. So yeah, we were looking for people who either had their own channel or contributed to other people's channels. We didn't look for anything in the way of education. I myself never actually even went to college, so I think it's important for me at least to not make that a criteria. It was really more about like what you taught yourself, or what you've learned rather.
Sure.
And if you taught yourself that, great. And yeah, it was just seeing what people were, what people were capable of and how they presented themselves during the interviews, if they were comfortable on camera. Obviously, we expected them to be a little bit nervous during the interviews. I was too, actually. And yeah, it was just seeing people like, they're friendly, they'll get along with the crew, and making sure that they know their gaming history or gaming stuff at least, and that they're capable of making gaming videos. One of the people actually, Triss, who I mentioned handled our Age of Calamity content, I actually used to compete with them on our analysis videos. They were over at Source Gaming making analysis videos too, and I heard they had one coming up for the Origami King. I'm like, well, crap. They make good videos. I've got to try and beat them. And I think we ended up releasing our videos at the exact same time, but that required me staying up basically for like a 40-hour period to finish my darn video.
Wow.
So now I'm glad that we have them, so I don't have to compete with them anymore.
Sure. Can't beat them, join them, right?
Exactly. That's exactly it.
Yeah. Cool.
That's great.
It is.
Yeah,
really,
it sounds
really
like it's
good.
been a smooth transition, and we're looking forward to seeing what GameXplain does in the future.
Thank you, and same here.
Those analysis videos, man. I mean, you guys, even for all the time that I've played Nintendo games, you guys catch so many Easter eggs and things that I never do when I'm watching trailers. Like, I'm not looking in the corners of the screen and stuff. I'm just focused on Mario. I'm like, oh yeah, that picture is of Luigi's Mansion. I guess there is Luigi's Mansion coming.
I mean, same here. Honestly, the funny thing is, I'm actually probably like on my initial watch, I'm probably less observant than most people. It's only when I go through frame by frame, watch them hundreds of times, backwards including, that pick up on everything. If during the initial playthrough, I actually missed most of this, or initial watch through, I missed most of it. So I get it.
Yeah, that's heavy work there. So folks, you watch those GameXplain videos and analysis videos, that's 6 minutes. Watch all 6 minutes of it. Don't just skip by the first 10 seconds. It took a long time. All right, so let's get into the nitty gritty. We're here to talk about Age of Calamity. We've got a new Zelda game. It came out. We got 2 questions I think are a great way to start off the conversation. I really don't have any direction to go with this. We'll just start letting it go, see where it takes us. Emily James, make sure I didn't write enemy, says, what chapter are you up to in Age of Calamity? And then G-Man says, how are you feeling about the game's story so far? So I feel like it's a great way to start off. So if you don't mind, I'd like to kick us off. I've beaten the campaign. I stayed up till midnight when it released. I played it till about 4 a.m. Then I had some comp time at work. So the next day I got started around noon and I played it till about 3 a.m. Jeez.
Wow.
Props to
hardcore.
you for that.
I was digging it. And a few times in my gaming time, like I will get that opportunity where I can just kind of play. I played Mario Rabbids Kingdom basically the exact same way. Far Cry 5, I played almost the same way. Like once I get started on a game that I'm really kind of into, I'll just kind of play it straight through. And it also got a lot easier the once I started to, maybe about 9 p.m. that night, I started to realize like I'm probably nearing the end of this campaign. So then it became, I'm just going to keep playing, right? Like at that point, it's like everything goes out the window. Let's keep playing. So I will stay without just going off on 20 minutes without anybody else getting in here.
Like I did.
The story is not the story that I wanted, but that doesn't mean it's the story isn't good. I'll say that.
Okay.
And we'll kick to you, Garrett.
I'm in chapter 4 right now. So I just got, I don't know how much story spoiler there is, but there's the Master Sword, right? Like you get the Master Sword.
Spoilers, Garrett. Jeez.
Like, come on.
Darn it.
I feel like the Koei Tecmo game is like, okay, we're going to have to put Master Sword somewhere in this game. So the story, I mean, I'm enjoying it so far. It's keeping me intrigued. I like kind of the newer characters that are in this game. I like the characters that I'm playing as well. Basically, Impa is probably my favorite character to play so far. The rest are just fine. They're just hard to manage. But Impa, there's a groove with her in each of those matches that just clicks with me. So I'm really enjoying her. I like the kind of just more of the conversations that's happening between the champions and also the main characters in this storyline so far. But yeah, not going in too much of the story. It's keeping me intrigued, basically. I want to see the end of it.
What about you, Rebecca?
I'm, I think, a little tiny bit further than Garrett is. I think I finished chapter 4. I did the level right after what you were talking about with the Master Sword, where we went to Akala region, which I realized I had been pronouncing wrong the entire time. I've always been saying Akala region. And I feel a lot of the same way as Garrett. Impa is also my favorite character to use right now. I feel like as interested as I am in using the other characters and all the other 4 champions, I feel that I'm gravitating towards using her a lot. I've just been leveling her up like crazy. And yeah, same thing. I feel like the story is, it's still developing at this point, but I am interested a lot in like these characters developing, seeing a little bit of like what their homeland was like during the 100 years before Age of Calamity. The little baby guardian is absolutely stealing the show for me so far. Every single scene that he's in, I'm just like about to cry of like how cute he is.
He's the adorable comic relief of the story.
He really is. So I'm still nervous about where that's going to go in the story because we haven't really had anything else happen with him yet where I'm at.
Andre.
Gotcha.
Okay, I have to be careful here that I don't spoil anything because I'm all the way to chapter 2 in this game. So I haven't played every character yet. I've played in the core cast plus, or core cast, I mean Link, Impa, and Zelda, and I've also played as Rivali now. And I think Rivali might be, if not my favorite, right up there with probably Link. I like Rivali because being able to fly around and he literally just throws bombs at people with like a gust of wind. I respect the hell out of that. So
and you can do that like that tap X and you can just kind of keep swooping and you can just chain them over and over again. And it's crazy kind of OP.
Yeah, he seems really good.
Yeah.
And then I like Link just because I like seeing how they took his moveset from Breath of the Wild and put it into a Warriors game. I like seeing how his runes now work. And that's the case for every character too. But Link was the one, of course, we the only one who played as in Breath of the Wild. So it's fun to see how they updated them. And I do like how he just chucks bombs. I've got a thing with bombs with this game, apparently. But I love he just chucks them at enemies. And that's pretty great. Not a huge fan of his special ability with the bow and arrow. But otherwise, I think him and Rivali are my current favorites, followed by probably Impa as well.
I played a lot as Mipha and Link myself. I definitely noticed... I don't know. I think it's a traditionalist in me. I just kind of kept going back to Link outside of the chapters where they kind of force you to play as other people. I just kind of kept playing as Link because it's a Zelda game. It's kind of what you do. I kept, so I put most of my levels there.
I really like how Mipha has the healing. That comes in handy, and she can heal the other characters too.
She's
so I always try to bring her along.
And her spear is super fast. So I enjoyed, I played one chapter co-op with Jack, and I played as Mipha, and Jack played as Link. Jack by himself has already beaten the game himself. He beat the campaign earlier this morning. So he's
ahead of all of us.
He's a gamer. Let me tell you.
He was right on my heels, and a big part of why I kept playing it is that that Friday when I started playing, he kept coming down periodically throughout the day, and he'd be like, "Where are you?" And he'd see, and he'd run back upstairs, and oh man, this kid's on my tail.
Your son's after your reputation, man.
he's out to get me.
He should be the one on this podcast.
We keep joking that we're going to kick Donnie off and get Jack on a show.
The show would be better for former GameXplainer, Jack Reese. All right, so I had some comments that I shared in the Discord that I'd like to start with. But before I get there, I want to say I think it'd be best to start with the things that you're really enjoying about the game so far. So often it can be very easy to get all nitpicky, right? And get very negative on the things the game's not doing for you. And I've got a few of those. But there are some of the things that I think the game is doing well that I want to highlight first. I really love the cutscenes in this game. They are tremendous, actually, in a way that most of the Breath of the Wild cutscenes weren't. I say most, not all, but most. I think the cutscenes, especially with all the voice actors together, I think they just, I don't know, like they feel like they spring to life in a way that I don't remember the first set of the cutscenes doing. And I think maybe just because they're longer, there's a little bit more meat on these cutscenes bones. And even though I am upset, I want to say I am upset that the story isn't what I wanted, because I feel like that's a fair claim to have. The acting and like the twists that they take this story in, like it softens that anger a little bit, like where I come in like, oh, this isn't what I want, but it's still kind of very good. So, I really like that. And that's a big part of why I kept playing, like having that carrot on the end of the stick. Like, man, if I can get to the end of this chapter, if I get to the end of this mission, I'll get another cutscene and get to see something else. And the fact of having a more linear story being told to us as opposed to everything out of order. One of the things I was going to say about this game is I appreciate how much Breath of the Wild this game is, from the map to the fonts to the sound effects to the environments to the costumes. Like, it's very Breath of the Wild.
It really could fool you.
Right. And that's a great, right? For all of us that love it and wanting the next one, like, this is a great thing to tide us over. There was a part of me, though, that once I got into the missions and I started seeing the structure, I was like, they're following the Breath of the Wild structure a little bit too much. It's a little bit too much like Breath of the Wild. I wanted the prequel to Breath of the Wild, right? As opposed to, like, you know, here you are, you're going to get started. Now you're going to get your all 4 Guardians. You're going to do each one of the Guardian missions, right? Like, I was kind of wanting it to maybe go in a different direction or tell something new. It's kind of bittersweet, right? It's like, I understand the nostalgia of it. I appreciate a lot, because I'm familiar with it. I understand it evokes that nostalgic that feeling. But at the same time, I really, really wanted a Breath of the Wild prequel story, something completely different that, you know, that kind of fleshes this out. So in those regards, the cutscenes really tie together and bring that forward in a way that, even though it kind of follows, there's a lot of parallels in both games, the cutscenes kind of bring it forward to kind of change it up a bit for me. And the fact that I was getting this linear story, I'm really happy that I didn't complete the missions out of order and get the different memories out of order. I very much like the fact that they all played together. At least in my playthrough, everything's, you know, was smooth as rain, fit together.
Donnie, did you recruit the champions in the same order that you did the Breath of the Wild?
I did.
To find beasts
on my second playthrough, not my first playthrough. So my first playthrough,
we're on number 2 now.
Yeah, because it was like on our return to Breath of the Wild that we did last year. I realized that if I had known what I know now, I would have done them in a different order. So I did them in a different order, where I actually started. I started in the desert, and then I went to I did Rivali, and then Daruk, and then I finished with the Zora's Domain, which is the first time I played it. I actually think I almost did it in the opposite order. So, but in that regard, the cutscenes are great. The Breath of the Wild feeling is really, really good. Andre, you mentioned the runes and how much of that Breath of the Wild combat they bring into the game to make you feel, you know, like you're playing it. It's just fantastic. Really, really good.
I'm very much the same way with the cutscenes. I feel like that's easily the best part for me, because you guys know I'm not really a huge fan of the warrior style gameplay itself. Like, it's just a lot of the same thing over and over. I get the appeal of it. It's very easy to just kind of tune everything else out and, you know, just beat up a bunch of enemies. So you're right. It's really the cutscenes that are pulling it. I do feel like the voice acting in this is a lot better than it was in Breath of the Wild, even though it is the same voice actors. I really feel like they stepped up their game. We're seeing like a lot more emotion in the characters. I feel like this might be an unpopular opinion, but piloting the Divine Beasts has been a blast. It is just so much stupid fun to wreck everything. I know you guys probably feel a little bit differently about that, but that part has been so much fun for me.
Yeah, for me, I more of the same thing. I really do like the cutscenes. I think, you know, I'm not much of a Warriors game as well, but once I just like committed to this game and kind of clicked with the game loop, I like the game loop a little bit. Now that I feel like I got it, like I got the game mechanics down, I was like, okay, I just go to objective, you try to fight down the big captains in the outpost, blah, blah, blah. Once you get that down, it's just a super cool, chill, grindy game. It doesn't feel too hard for me. Maybe the bosses feel a little intense and you have to pay attention a little bit more. But in the missions, by now, Chapter 4, I'm very efficient. Okay, it's like, okay, I know how to move the characters. I know where to go. And I know kind of my combo moveset I need for this specific character and just go for it. And I feel like you can't really mess up, right, with the gameplay. You can't really like, oh, you pressed the wrong button, maybe a little bit when you're trying to attack them or whatever, but you could just button mash all the way through it.
There's the strategy, but then you can also cheese the bosses too if you want to, by freezing them and attacking. So there's strategy, and it's, you know, you're right, it's not hard.
So I was surprised that I'm liking the gameplay more than I thought. And I think I need to reevaluate myself with warrior style games. And, you know, when I go to like Fire Emblem Warriors or even the previous Hyrule Warriors, I need to think about, okay, this is like, I probably like this gameplay more than I think I do.
There's a lot of Warriors games. If you want more,
yeah,
you'll be busy for a while. I think as applies to the cutscenes. Like, I think those are probably a highlight of this game, at least for me. And I think it's not just that they're longer, and not just that there's actually a significant portion of the game is cutscenes. Like Breath of the Wild is maybe 1 to 2% of the game was cutscenes of that. There's a confidence here in this play we didn't see in Breath of the Wild. Like, it feels like they know what Breath of the Wild is now, and they're not afraid to get a little bit silly with it. Like, I think one of my favorite characters I've seen so far, or favorite set of characters, is Robbie and Pura, I believe. Those they're just so fun to watch, and the voice acting feels more confident, and I think it may, that's partially the voice actors being more comfortable, probably direction, but also just realizing, like, hey, this isn't a mainline Zelda game. I mean, it is and it isn't, but I think they're realizing go a little bit more off kilter with this one, lean a little bit more to the silly side of things, and that's really fun to see. And then the way they capture, like, the kind of ideas of Breath of the Wild, or at least the some of the visuals or aesthetic of it, I think is really smart. Like, basing everything around the world map, which looks just like the one in Breath of the Wild. Great decision there, and it makes it feel pretty much as elegant as it could, given the fact this is a Warriors game, and it's not as different as it could be the Breath of the Wild.
Because so many of those icons on the map replace menus and stuff that you dove in on Hyrule Warriors, right? These are other menus that you just surf around and zip through and keep clicking A, and now they feel tactile and they feel like you're making progress towards something, and in a lot of ways they're the same thing. They're just like little unlocks that you get as you earn stuff. But putting it as a part of the map and giving it, a lot of the stories have like little sentences of dialogue as to what you're doing and why they're there. Just giving that meaning makes it feel, I think, so much more important while you're doing it.
I want to go back to what Andre said about the world just being so true to Breath of the Wild too. Like, I want to go back to each level to where it's like when it was Hyrule Castle Town rebuilt, Lon Lon Ranch rebuilt, and just go through and kind of see everything, what it looked like beforehand, like seeing the Great Plateau in the background of some of the shots, going through like what the houses looked like. Like, it's beautiful, and there's a lot of detail there.
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the fun of it, is like it's filling in a gap that we didn't have. I've said before, I felt like some of the most interesting parts of Breath of the Wild was a part we didn't get to play. Like, it's like, what happened 100 years ago? What happened in the past? And it's clear early on that we're not going to get all the answers there. But it's still interesting to see the state of the world, back before what ended up happening over the over the next century. So yeah, it's fun to see that. It's fun to see the characters interacting with each other, which is something we didn't get a whole lot of in Breath of the Wild. Like, we're seeing the champions now interacting with Zelda, and I presume the other champions at points. That again is something we didn't really have before. So it's just a lot of fun to watch. Whereas in Breath of the Wild, there wasn't much of the way in story at all.
Yeah. I've got a few gripes that I want to get into, but before I get there, I want to go to your champions moments, Rebecca, because I really enjoyed them. They're really great in the sense that they really, and I think you guys are going to find this later in the game, the champions moments really paint a picture for how strong the champions are and how much destruction they can do. And then also, when you pair that with some of the cutscenes and stuff you get later, how strong of a force they were up against Calamity Ganon coming back. And it really raises those stakes for me, both visually and in gameplay, in a way that I never thought of when I was playing Breath of the Wild. Like, you hear about it, you know that it happened, but I just kind of thought Ganon came back, swipe of the sword, everybody's dead. Like, there are Lord of the Ring-esque, I'm trying to think of the word, just counts, stakes at risk here. Like, that's kind of what you're dealing with. And I think putting you behind the wheel of the champions helps that set in. I just wish they weren't so clunky. I think the moments are kind of clunky overall. I wish they had a little bit more gameplay to them. And ultimately, and I guess this is really hard to do with scale. I don't know how I'm going to say something, but I don't know the fix to it. I kind of hate that you shoot these little dots on the map and you really can't see them. And you really don't know what's going on. I kind of wish it was, I don't know. I wish maybe they were accompanied by little cutscenes or something in between, just to kind of vary it up a bit, because it is kind of like a Minecrafty little sandbox they just kind of drop you in. They're like, just blow some stuff up, right?
Well, that's what's fun about it.
And everything's super low res and super flat, and you're like, I guess this is what we're doing. Why weren't we doing this the whole time? Where were these things?
Well, that's, I think, what begs the question for me, and I obviously the story will get there. But when I was piloting the Divine Beast for the first time, I did the Rudo one first with the big elephant, thinking, oh my God, like they have these 4 powerful divine beasts. Like, how could they have lost this war? Begs the question of why. So I'm sure I will find out why.
And some of them are really fun. I wish. So like you can do like the trample moves, and you can do the like you can rare up and break some stuff. And I wish there was more of that to the levels. Either like one or the other way. Like I wish there was either more complexity to completing those levels, or they were just a little easier to control. Either one of those would have gone a little bit further, I think, in those missions. It also, I'll save it. Anybody else?
I think I'll gripe a little bit more about the pilot missions. I am probably the furthest away as a Zelda fan than either of all y'all. So these beasts and these pilots, they don't really do anything for me. And I think of a lot of the times, okay, let me try to reskin in my head what is this gameplay mechanic is. And I'm like, this is a really not a great, well thought out on-rail shooter. That's kind of like there's some just fixed attacks that stops and does things, and I'm like, I feel like, I'm being serious. I'm thinking a college student or something, or a group of college students can probably program this just fine.
I just see it more as like a little mini game to break up the regular gameplay.
That's
I don't think it's supposed to be taken as anything more than that.
Yeah, it's just, when I look at it and is the grand scale of it, yeah, it's a big beast and everything, but just trying to see I'm trying to make out these enemies way far ahead, and they're just tiny dots. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm making of this. What is that's trying to attack me? And it's like, okay, let me just press some buttons and be fine. And I really just look at the attacks I'm doing, and then the mini map. Okay, I'm supposed to hit those red dots, right? Okay, cool. And that was probably my least favorite part of the game so far.
So the way you're talking about the Divine Beast sounds like how I play the rest of the game. I feel like I'm just looking at the minimap, running to the next destination, just mashing a bunch of buttons and moving on to the next spot. And I think that's why this game isn't quite working for me. I'm just not a huge fan of really action-focused games. And I was hoping the story of this would be enough to pull me through. But I mean, there were times when I'm like, I just can't do this anymore. I just can't put up with killing, another 1,000 bad guys within I feel like I killed more people in the first minute of this game than the entirety of Breath of the Wild.
For sure.
Probably not an exaggeration.
Probably not.
Sure.
So I think I found myself there are a couple moves in the game when you start performing them. I have enough time to check my Twitter feed and see what's going on. And it just loses me. I just don't find the gameplay that engaging. And I knew this going in that this probably would be the case based on Hyrule Warriors. But I was still hopeful. Maybe the story will pull me through. But while I want to see the rest of the cutscenes, I don't know if I'll put up with dozens of hours more of this to see them.
Sure. For what it's worth, I got through the campaign in about 17 hours. Is what it's clocked on my save file. And I wasn't mainlining it either. For those of you who think I was rushing through it, I wasn't. I was playing this game like I would play any other game, right? I play a mission, a side mission. I typically like to go in over level to the mission that I was. When I completed the game, I was at level 70, I think. 71. I think that's where I'm at now.
Wow.
Maybe I was at 68 or 69 when I completed the final mission. I'm still playing. But, I think that was pretty higher level than you need to be. I'm pretty sure I could have beat it faster if I wanted to. Andre, that story is there, but you will have to slog to get there. It's not throughout. There was a moment in time where I was playing this game, leading up to the finish, where I was getting really frustrated. I was like, really? I don't care anymore. I want to be done with this already.
It feels like it's a slow build up, and is it slow till the very end?
Yeah, okay. No spoilers, right? I'm not going to spoil anything. This story spins its wheels for a minute. A good minute, a chunk I would call that minute before the final act, you'd be kind of spinning your wheels, kind of doing the same thing. And I didn't like that. And I thought we were doing too much of it. And I kid you not, I went to our Discord and I was like, all right, I'm tired of this. I'm ready for this to be over. And then the game hit me with this beautiful shot of nostalgia. And I was like, I'm all back in. I'm ready to play again in a really, really cool way. But, if it took me 17 hours to beat, it's probably 14th hour when I got there. So from the 7th hour to the 14th hour, I was kind of like, it just wasn't very eventful. There were a lot of things. And so like my big downside with this game overall, not that I'm down on it. I think reviews have hit this game right on the money. If I had to score it, I'd probably 7.58. I think it's a great game. I just don't think it's game of the year, the best game, or whatever, labels we want to put on it. But I very much enjoyed the campaign. I'm glad I played it. I just think it wears out its welcome a little bit. It feels padded. It feels padded. And there's just not a lot of enemy variety. One of the things that I really wanted to tell you guys is I wish they would have done some new characters because here's the thing.
I wasn't expecting them to add enemies.
You're going to fight Lionels and Hinoxes and stuff. And fighting Lionels, Andre, as opposed to the combat you're talking about, super fun, at least to me. Like with this much tactile combat, like agency that you have over the player, I like fighting Lionels in this game in a way that I didn't like fighting them in Breath of the Wild. I just feel like I have so much more control over that limited experience, right?
I don't think I even killed one in Breath of the Wild. So I don't know if I should be afraid or excited to take on one.
They're
in this
tough,
game.
but you just have so many more tools at your disposal, right? So they're a lot of fun. But here's the problem. I'm going to talk about enemy types, so I'm not going to spoil anything, right? But you're going to fight Lionels, you're going to fight Hinoxes, you're going to fight the villains in this game a lot. You're going to fight them, you're going to kill them, and then they're going to come back. And then they're going to come back as
I've noticed some of them coming back already.
Elemental versions of themselves, and then they're going to come back with doubles of the same. And it's just, you're just going to notice, you're like, I have fought this person 17 times
and
already.
then I've kind of seen them already making it harder artificially by just having more of those enemies on screen at a time.
That's exactly where it's going to go. I don't feel like the original Hyrule Warriors went there. Yes, you'd fight, Volga more than once. Yes, one time he was covered in flames and the other time he wasn't. But I felt like there was enough variety that it didn't feel so repetitive. I don't remember fighting Volga more than, I don't know, and I'm probably wrong, a handful of times, 3, right? Like you fought him once and he flew away and you fought him again and then you had like the final fight with him. I fought somebody in this game often, like over. And I'm like, every time he showed up, I was like, dude, are we not done with this already? I have beaten you dozens of times by now. And that was really, that's frustrating. It was frustrating to be so close to the end of the game and they're like, do it again. Like, why? Why are we doing it again?
Groundhog's Day.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just going to get a lot of that. And then the blood moon rises. And
is that in this game?
Apparently.
Spoiler! No, I don't.
I don't know. Who knows, Andre? Nobody knows. So
Gone too far if they have.
That's probably my biggest issue with the gameplay, just the design of the game, is that there's a lot of it, and it's repetitive in a way that I didn't find the original Hyrule Warriors, because I think they had so many different storylines and timelines and different paths.
Gotcha.
That maybe it was the same stuff, but it felt different. This doesn't. You're still Link. You're still the champions. You're still fighting the same dudes, basically on the battlefield, the same battlefield that's been going on.
I just want to talk about like the extra side mechanics there in the game that are outside the battles. Namely, I think, namely the place where you pay money to level your characters up. That's a thing.
Isn't it like the military training?
Yep, you open up the training grounds. You open up different shops and things like that.
The different shops, and then the main one is like fusing your weapons to make them stronger. So my main gripe with that, it just felt like this game was not balanced from the beginning with the levels, and I feel like you kind of need to do the side missions in order to level your characters up, and with so many characters, you're gonna still have to pay money to increase certain levels up.
That's
and it's like, okay, I got to do the side missions. Okay, I got to get all these extra weapons from these missions. Okay, then I'm gonna have to fuse them together. Is there any sense to fusing like one particular weapon or the other? Not really to me. And so I just kept like just stacking them into
it's
one.
It's up to play styles, right? Like if you want to have a certain look or a certain type,
right.
Like if you like two-handed weapons versus one,
I gotcha. Yeah, I just felt like all of this stuff is like, okay, this kind of just there. It's not really thought.
I so badly want to bring up every RPG where you've grinded every level and everything and every weapon for every game for the last 6 months, Garrett. How are you going to do this to me? How are you going to do this to me right now?
I'll defend myself. Let's go.
So the repetitive nature of the stuff that I brought up before, also the story. The story has some really cool moments. I fully expect Rebecca to really enjoy this story. But it's got time travel, which we knew from the demo, which we've all seen speculated. It's there, which means it's not canon. And
We are going back to the future.
yep, and we knew what it was, and then the way that they did it, I don't want to say I don't like it. I just want to say that I wish they wouldn't have done it. Does that make sense? Because the story I enjoyed, like, there are moments that are really nice and charming, and you get to know about these characters, and it's great. But it's like, is this what I wanted when they announced this game, and we thought what we were getting was what we were getting? This isn't that at all.
Oh, great.
It's kind of weird because in a way it still is canon. It's just not as nearly as relevant to the story we thought we're getting backstory
exactly.
on.
We're another Hyrule Historia 2 going on over here. So.
Now, again, I can only speak from my perspective all the way into the second chapter, so I don't know if things change at any point or whatever. But I do think that from what I know, based on what I've played, that the conceit that this is effectively a different timeline does kind of go against, I think, what most people's impressions of the game were when it was first revealed. Being like, hey, find out about the events 100 years ago. It's like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And it's like, oh, but by the way, it's kind of like in this alternate history way type thing where, you know, it's just kind of weird. And it's still canon because it's still happening in this timeline to these individuals, but it's not particularly relevant to the Breath of the Wild that we played through. Because those characters, as far as we know, are still screwed. Like anyone who died in the last 100 years, they're not coming back. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's still, I imagine it's still possible to enjoy the story on its own merits. I have been so far, but it is weird that it doesn't tie in nearly as much as we expected it to.
Remember, we debated whether Hyrule Warriors 1 was canon or not, whether it was a Zelda game or not.
It totally is.
We can just throw, if we didn't like this, we can just throw this in the it's not canon garbage pile.
My last 2 bullet points are actually pretty quick ones. Performance. Yeah. Especially the starting game. Here's the interesting thing about the performance. That opening level might be the worst. It gets significantly better later. It really does. And I don't know why, because
it was a bold move starting the demo with that level.
Yeah. There are later sections where there are a lot of enemies on screen. I was legitimately taken aback. Like, man, there is just waves. Like, I'm going to have to really, like you pause the game, give that hand a flex. You're like, I'm going to have to do this. Knuckles, like, it was really impressive how dense some of these battlefields get to be later on. And they run great. They run fine. I don't know what it is. My dumb self wants to say, like, maybe they can't do water and grass at the same time. But whatever it is, those outdoor natural areas where you have flowing water and grass seem to be the worst parts. Yes. And you do have those levels later, and they seem to be worse. And the Deku tree still doesn't run great. Like, it was a big thing when I got there. I was like, you've got to be kidding me. They still haven't fixed this area yet?
That was my worst area, too. Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to base a game on Breath of the Wild, you better have a Lost Woods that doesn't run at all. So.
That's a good point. They're being true to the original criteria. So that's very, very good. So the performance was okay, shaky at best.
It's
and
playable.
It's playable.
I think it's playable.
I mean, later on, it actually does get quite good. My last gameplay thought that I had, my last bullet point is, I wish that there were more varied winning conditions. The winning conditions for the maps are largely the same. And they're capture the keeps, defeat the bad person, go on to the next one.
I think that's just this type of game, though. Isn't this what it is in most Muso games?
It is, but Hyrule Warriors and other Dynasty Warriors games often will throw you some curveballs. Maybe you've got to fast travel around the map, collect some things. Maybe you've got to defend multiple points at one time. I remember with Hyrule Warriors, this particular mission where you have to defend 2 places as Link and Zelda on the opposite sides of the map. And you have to kind of fight on, you have to toggle back and forth between both. It was just kind of raise the tension, right, of the things that are going on. You know, there's not, I don't recall much of that going on in this game. This game is pretty much very similar. Like, get the keeps, defeat the villains. Maybe something comes out of the way, but it's pretty much it.
I think that's why I think this game is very chill, because it doesn't really makes me feel tense at all. It's like, okay, I could just take my time, command my characters where they need to go the most efficient way that I can. And I remember like Fire Emblem Warriors, you had to defend like multiple like defense points.
I remember the original Hyrule Warriors. You also had to protect like the bomb cats. What are those called? The bombs, the cat things from Ocarina?
Bomb shoes.
Bomb shoes, thank you. Yeah, you had to protect those as they made their way around to blow up like bridges and stuff to cross gaps and things like that. There just seemed to be a lot of variety in those things that I didn't have a whole lot, with this. Yeah. There's some, I'm not saying it's not there at all. There are occasionally some things, but it's just not a big part of the game. And I think that could have really helped the game out a lot if there were.
Gotcha.
The only thing that you haven't mentioned that I've been having a problem with is the map, because I really like having the mini map in the bottom of the screen, but to me it's useless. It's either zoomed out way too far or way too far in. Okay. And I really rely on the map. And even when I pull open the map and I press the menu to open it, it's still not very helpful because you can't kind of scroll into what size you want it to be. So I've been having trouble with navigating sometimes in very large areas because the map stinks.
I agree with that, actually. I mentioned I was playing off the map earlier, and maybe I shouldn't be, because it's actually pretty difficult. It's so far zoomed out, it's hard to see the pathways and how they connect exactly. And maybe it's just me, but I kept wanting the map to be... I didn't want it to be locked north like it is now. Maybe that's an option. I didn't check. But I kept getting confused with the direction I was facing, the direction I was actually heading in on the map. So...
One of the options that's not there that I was, I was talking to Jeff Grubb. I mentioned in his review or like in early leading up to the game, he had lost a lot of progress, and he'd basically just kind of like quit because he'd lost progress. He got upset about it, and I was like, wait a minute, you could save in the mission, like in Hyrule Warriors, you could save in the mission. Yeah, you can't. He wasn't wrong. Like I went and looked at it because some of these missions got long. There's some missions I played for.
How did he lose progress?
Because
he just quit the game.
He thought it auto saved and he quit. And it was just restarted him, from the beginning. Yikes. And, in the first game, you could actually save in mission. You could save a mission state. But in this one, you can't. It's not there. And that's something for folks to just know about. I don't think it's a good or a bad thing. It's just something to know. Because some of these missions, I played some of these missions are over 40 minutes.
If you die, it's very confusing to me. I was streaming it and I had to make sure I was picking the right option, because if you die, it says retry and then retry battle and then like exit scenario. I think it says, if you want to start from the farthest that you've been, you have to hit retry. I almost picked retry battle thinking that it was going to start me at the beginning of that boss battle again, but that's to like redo the whole thing. Yeah. Yep. So that wording is a little bit confusing.
Yeah, that's backwards.
If I didn't have help there, then I would have picked the wrong one and I would have lost, the whole level.
That's what happened to Jeff. I think he said he was like in the loading screen, he was watching it spin and he like quit it, and then he lost the entire chapter and had to do it all over again. So yeah, something to think about.
Good
Anything
game.
else?
I'm having fun.
Yeah,
I'm having fun too. I don't want it to sound like I'm a downer. I'm just trying to be comprehensive. I'm trying to give the game the full coverage that I think it deserves. I enjoyed it. I very much enjoyed it. I'd have zero regret buying it. Absolutely none. And I'm still playing it. One of the really cool things about this game that I know you're going to love, Rebecca, there's some post-game content, a lot of it. And there's story-based post-game content, if I may be so tactfully clever. That's really good. It's really fun. And like you don't have those challenge maps, with the old Link and stuff, but you have all these challenge missions that you can go through and keep grinding out if you want to, and you want to grind up other champions and stuff. But I imagine for somebody like Andre, if you're not into the gameplay just at its core, you're probably not going to do all that.
Unless the post-game story is just Breath of the Wild 2, in which case I'm totally all the way there for.
You could call it that if an alternate timeline, its own separate thing.
Oh no.
Anything else?
I think my favorite thing about this game, I can really just go through some side missions and just mute and just play on handheld, like just so easily.
One of my favorite things about Warriors games are these are like great podcast games. You can sit there and listen to it
right now, in fact, right?
Yeah, you could just sit there, play and podcast, and you're not having, as I mentioned earlier, like those winning conditions. Like in Hyrule Warriors, you had to pay attention to like the commands and stuff that were being barked at you the whole time. You really don't have to in this game. There's not a whole lot of that. Like a few times, maybe you have to like go save a captain or something. But I felt like we were doing that like 6 times in every map in Hyrule Warriors, where this wasn't a thing. Ultimately, we got a couple more questions here, but ultimately my take is I like the original Hyrule Warriors much, much more than this one. Okay. Not to say this one's bad. I love Hyrule Warriors. We've talked about that, right? We've done our Zelda game rankings. It's one of my favorite ones. So, the Winter Gamer wants to know if you could choose one Sheik of Slate power in real life, which one would you choose? I feel like it's an extremely dangerous question. Andre, what would you choose?
Oh my god! I mean, I've been talking about bombs so
Right?
much, but I feel like I don't know if I can go there. Probably Magnesis. I feel like Magnesis is about as close to being like a Jedi as you could get in Zelda. You
pretty
just
good.
pull things close to you, so I'd be all about that.
You don't like hearing what somebody's saying and just like freeze.
That'd
That
be
one would be
stasis,
good if you could
right?
if you could do it for longer.
Yeah.
It's too short.
Rebecca, what about you?
Magnesis is a good one. If I like see something across the room that I need to get, just like bring it over.
Like the game.
Exactly.
Over here.
Probably Magnesis as well.
What?
I mean, that's the most practical ability. But you know what? I'm gonna go a little bit differently. I mean, the ice ability with the big ice cube, I would be down for that.
That's where I was going to go.
If I can make smaller ice cubes off of it,
Think about it. At any
down.
moment you need some ice, just
you just go up and you're good. If you want, those challenges where you have to sit on an ice cube, you could do that at parties now.
What?
So
I've done that before.
I wasn't on board with this originally, but you're kind of convincing me now. Like I've always
there
thought,
you go.
I've always thought, what was it called?
Cryonis.
Cryonis,
I always thought that was like the heart of this game from Captain Planet. Like with a super lame power, you can make an ice cube. Cool.
That's
But
right.
yeah, like being able to like cool your drink instantly. You know what? That's kind of useful.
It's a
I
sweet
can
deal.
get behind it. Yeah.
Imagine you're at a party. It's real fancy, right? They don't have an ice sculpture. You're just like,
And everyone just cheers for you.
think about
But
pool
with
parties.
Magnesis, I can just pull the freezer all the way to me. Just
Ooh.
That's true.
Breaks all the walls in his house as he does it.
With, like Thor's hammer flying through the building.
Exactly.
I now want that. I want that character. I want a Marvel character who can just pull a fridge to him. Adam wants to know,
Give me a beer.
what do you think is the next game that Koei Tecmo and Nintendo will work together on?
Ooh.
Probably another Warriors game.
Which IP?
I've said before I would kill for a Pikmin Warriors game.
Pikmin Warriors.
I feel like they're already basically the same game. You've
that's
got
close,
like
yeah.
a map.
It's getting
You're
there.
fighting a ton of enemies, and you can send your captains to other places on the map. So just go all in. Just give us like 1,000 Pikmin. Just chuck them at the enemies, and we're good to go.
I don't hate
Little did we know that's the
No, I hate
secret
that,
Pikmin
yeah.
4 game that Miyamoto was talking about 4 years ago.
Pikmin 4,000.
Either one?
Feel like, well, I mean, yeah, I think another Warriors game is the logical answer. I could probably see them doing another IP. We've talked about possibilities for which one. It seems like the next step that they would take. It works.
Yeah, I think I think of it as the most logical franchise with Nintendo is probably Xenoblade Warriors. I think a lot of people discuss that too. It's like
that
that's
works.
probably the most practical step there.
We had a whole video about other Nintendo Warriors spin-offs we'd like to see, and that was a game that started it, was Xenoblade Warriors.
Sure. You could do all different kind of timelines, and you could have 2 mixed with 1 and bring X in. You could have mechs and stuff. I mean, that's really, really good. To say something different, although I know I've said this one before, so sorry, Shackers, and repeat myself. I would really like a good Fire Emblem Warriors game. I don't think the Fire Emblem Warriors game that we got was good. I don't think it lives up to the Fire Emblem name. I would love to see them remake a Fire Emblem game, like story, as a Fire Emblem Warriors game.
That'd be cool.
I think that would be really, really cool. I'd love a Fire Emblem Warriors Awakening. Something like that would be fantastic. So
Would you like Fire Emblem Three Houses format, but instead of the tactical gameplay is Warriors gameplay? Would you like that day-to-day type of timeline?
I mean, I wouldn't hate it. I'd probably still buy it and play it anyway because I do like the Warriors games. I'm like one of these gamers apparently that doesn't hate the Warriors style games. So I'll probably buy anything that they do with an Nintendo IP. To be honest with you, but I just want like. When I think of Fire Emblem, when I think of Fates and I think of Awakening and how great the cutscenes were and how great the stories were, how complex they were and the characters, we didn't get any of that with Fire Emblem Warriors, and what a shame.
That's true.
You know, like, and that's the Fire Emblem aspect that I was thinking Warriors could bring to it. And that's what I want from Persona Warriors. So that's why I would like a good Fire Emblem Warriors game. I think they look at it and they go, we didn't do it as good as we could have. So let's try it again. Like, let's do it again. And let's remake something old, not Three Houses, right? It's got to be older than that. I would even say older than Awakening. Bring an old Fire Emblem game current by making a Warriors game and introducing people to those characters and telling a real Fire Emblem story. With the cutscenes and stuff, I would be very excited for it. But I can see that Xenoblade's a better pick. Okay, guys, that's almost an hour of Age of Calamity. We hope that you are enjoying it. So keep playing it and let us know what you think about our thoughts on the game in the weeks coming ahead. But we've got to continue on with the show. So jumping into This Week in Nintendo, Garrett, take it away.
So this is probably the biggest piece of news since last week. The new sequel to World Ends With You franchise, Neo, The World Ends With You, coming in, has been announced, is coming in summer 2021 for Nintendo Switch. Square Enix announces their sequel to it. And instead of a 2D action role-playing game, as the first one was, it's 3D action role-playing game, as we saw in the announcement trailer. Players will be stepping into the shoes of a character named Rendo as they unravel the mysteries of the Reaper's game in Shibuya. And then you can also check out the official trailer. They have gameplay in there. They have characters. They have dialogue. They have the style. They have everything in that trailer. So go check it out. I am very surprised, actually, that Square Enix announced this sequel in the timeline that they did, because The World Ends With You is a DS game. It's an older title, right? It's been years since the first game, and so I'm just surprised to see this. I don't know about you guys. What are your reactions to this,
Andre?
I actually never played the original, so I'm surprised that it's getting a sequel. And
me too.
And it's cool. It's cool to see Square giving fans that, and it's fun to see the reaction to that. But I don't think anyone really expected a sequel to it. So yeah, I don't have much to add myself, but it's just awesome to see the reaction and the positivity surrounding it, especially with Square Enix, which can be a little divisive these days, I feel like at times. Yeah,
I'm basically the same. I wanted to get into it, but I never did. No, you were back up.
I feel like this is a huge gap in my knowledge. I really don't know much about this game at all. It wasn't even on my radar at all that it could get a sequel.
Guys, I have not played the first one either, so I'm right there with you.
We're all here together. Wow.
But when I talk to people that are fans of the first game, they blew up on Twitter and Discord.
People seemed excited.
People are really excited, and people were just like, this is unbelievable that Square Enix is giving the fan service we're kind of needing with this franchise, is this new game. They actually, they had a countdown or whatever for the past few days, and I saw the announcement was like an anime in Japan. I was like, oh, okay, it's just an anime. Then I saw this trailer. It's like, wow, thank you, Square Enix, for doing this for this franchise. I'm actually interested to playing this on my 3DS, and let's see, the first game, and then see how this sequel does.
Think it gets delayed? Everything's getting delayed, right? Yeah,
probably.
What comes out first, this or Bravely?
Oh no, Bravely Second is there. It's a locked in date.
Sure?
It's been it's still
locked in.
Come on, don't do this to me.
Cyberpunk's been locked in how many times?
Well, Cyberpunk's a whole different story here. Okay, it's a big, huge open world game. That's different. Bravely Second, they're there.
I'm gonna keep teasing until it happens. The other news story that has Black Friday deals are out in force for Nintendo Switch owners. There are deals everywhere. You can get several first party games on sale right now for at least $20, $30, maybe $35 off. Mario Bros. U, Link's Awakening, Mario Maker 2, Splatoon 2, Luigi's Mansion 3, Breath of the Wild, Fire Emblem 3 Houses, I think, reached its lowest price point. I think you pick it up for $26 a GameStop, $30 a retail. I think even digital, Mario Tennis Aces, Yoshi's Crafted World, tons of stuff out there. The eShop is also matching deals. 2K games are on sale, Devolver's on sale, Sega's on sale, Capcom's on sale, Borderlands, Crash Team Racing, Diablo, Catherine, Monster Hunter, Dark Souls, all of that stuff is on sale. Supergiant games are on sale, Bastion, Transistor, Hades itself is on sale, so get some Black Friday shopping done. Rob wants to know, did anyone jump on any deals this week? He said he finally decided to jump on Super Mario Bros. U. It's a great game. So, Andre, you pick up any discounts?
No, I barely have time to play games recreationally. So if I'm not doing something for work, I'm probably not playing it, honestly, outside of like Ring Fit and the rare exception. Like, I bought both of the next-gen consoles. I played maybe 2 hours of Astrobot. I spent the only time on my Xbox downloading games. I haven't played any of them yet. So no, I haven't bought any of the deals yet. I mostly get, I play most of Nintendo's first-party games because we get review code for them.
Absolutely.
But outside of that, I haven't had a chance to check out much else.
Gotcha. Rebecca.
This might finally be the chance that I pick up some of these, because if I don't get one of the first party games at launch, there's a good chance that I'm probably never gonna get it. That's just the way that like my gaming habits are. But I've been getting a lot of push to play Luigi's Mansion 3 and Fire Emblem Three Houses, which would be
Both
totally out of like my comfort zone. But you guys are all pushing them on me, and why not get it now while they're discounted?
I'm gonna keep
Even
pushing.
if I don't. I know.
You need to play
will.
Luigi's Mansion 3 right
I
away.
know.
Yes,
I know.
please.
I don't know if Fire
I
Emblem
wrote
is
that
for
one
you.
off. I wrote off Luigi's Mansion because I didn't like the first one that much. It was okay. But after I was watching Garrett play a lot of it when he was doing his extra life stuff, and it does look a lot better. Yeah, I don't know if Fire Emblem is my kind of game either. I don't think it is, but many people are pushing it on me.
I think Fire Emblem would be great for you to stream, like with your streaming
Yes.
channel and everything. I think a lot of people would love to watch you play Fire Emblem, myself included. But
Never played a Fire
I'm not
Emblem
going to
before.
recommend that because that's a bigger step. Luigi's Mansion 3, top 5 Switch game.
Yeah.
Definitely get it.
I know.
And the time commitment with Luigi's Mansion 3, it's like, for me, it was like 15 hours or something like that. Fire Emblem, I put in 120 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would
Started
do that,
classic
but
like a maniac.
Garrett was telling me I can put Fire Emblem on the easiest setting and let it play itself while I
You
enjoy the
could.
story, which I
You
would
could.
do, to
You
be
can
honest.
just do that with YouTube too. Like,
That's true. The couple other things that I saw were on sale that are much smaller games. I think they might both be indies that I'm thinking about picking up. I've been hearing a lot of. Have either of you or any of you guys played West of Loathing?
Yeah.
Have you played that?
Mhm.
Ryan Mathman has been talking a lot about how fun that game is, and I've heard it's kind of like Undertale, which makes me interested in it, like the kind of the quirkiness of it, the fourth wall breaking. I think that's like $5 right now, so I might pick that up. And then I think Super Mega Baseball is super cheap, which I've been waiting for a sale on that.
I've been waiting for a sale on Super Mega Baseball 3 as well. So if you found it, let
It's
me know.
on sale.
3? The new one?
I think so.
Okay.
I'll check.
I'll have to look
I
it
saw
up.
one of them was on sale.
Garrett, you picking up any discounts?
Guys, I've been buying too many other games.
There's no
Yeah,
such
guys.
thing. There's no such thing. Look, these developers have to eat, Garrett. It's up to us to help them.
Yeah, up to us to give up all of our money. Yes.
That's right.
Slay the Spire for $15 on Switch. That sounds very enticing. I know it's on Game Pass for PC, but like having that on handheld, that's a perfect card game to play on Switch. Looking at these other games, maybe Link's Awakening. I haven't gotten that yet. And
You
so,
didn't?
no, I haven't.
Garrett.
I know. But other than that, I
you can
have
pass
a
on that
lot
one.
of these games. Maybe Xenoblade Chronicles 2, Torna.
Yeah.
Yeah, I still need to play Xenoblade Chronicles 2 before I buy that, probably. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I picked up Mario and Sonic at the Olympics at GameStop for $25. So
That's
I
pretty
was real
good.
happy with that one. And then the only ones that I would recommend everybody, if you don't have them, go buy all the Devolver games. Catan Zero, Ape Out, all their games are great. Get all those games and get Golf Story. As always, get Golf Story. Always Golf Story. If you already have Golf Story, buy Golf Story for somebody else. Give them a $10 gift card. It's like $6 Golf Story right now. You kidding me?
Get Bastion and Transistor for $7.
Golf Story's
Get
better.
those two games for $7. That's a Chipotle burrito. Okay.
Golf Story's better.
Donnie, the Super Mega Baseball that I saw was on sale was number 2, but I just checked number 3 is on sale for $33.74.
It's a little higher than
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
good enough.
I have 1 and 2.
Number 2 is $18.
Yeah, I've got 2. That's the one I keep playing because I'm waiting for 3. Rebecca, why don't you hit us with some Shaq questions?
Of course. Let's see here. Kyle wants to know if you could replace one game of the year nominated with one of your own, what game would you replace? And what game would you replace with it?
Boy, dare I say replace The Last of Us. That's going to make everybody hate me, isn't it? I don't remember them all, to be honest with you, but the one that I would absolutely needs to be in there is Ori and the Will of the Wisp, which is the game of the year this year. That's the appropriate game of the year. So you replace any of the other ones. I would replace Final Fantasy probably. That's right. That's one of them, right?
Yeah, the remake.
I just don't do Final Fantasy, so I would replace Final Fantasy with Ori and the Will of the Wisp.
What about you, Andre?
I would replace Among Us because that game didn't even come out this year. It's like 2 years old at this point. And going by those rules, though, I'll stick to the spirit of it and replace it with a game that also came out, or that came out last year, being Ring Fit Adventure, because I've been playing so much of that game recently.
That's been a really dark horse. Wasn't that they came out with the sales numbers for this year in Japan? I think Ring Fit came in at number 2.
Yeah, it's been huge
amazing
during the quarantine, I think.
Ring Fit's a hit.
Amazing.
Yeah, the timing of it kind of worked out much as Animal Crossing did. It's like, wow, can't go to the gym anymore. What am I going to do? Oh, Ring Fit Adventure. All right.
They're definitely going to do a sequel. At least like a software box copy for at least. Yeah.
Okay, so for me, Game of the Year nominations, those nominations, like I played half of those games, and I have not played the other half of them. I'm content with them. I'm not gonna like argue. There's like a favorite enjoyable game I put in there. I'm gonna go to the RPG category though, game of the year, and I disagree that Genshin Impact is an RPG. I disagree. Is in that category. I know some people will probably argue against it. It's just like, I've played enough Genshin Impact. That's an action adventure game grinding loot. I mean, sure, it's an RPG, but not really to me. Put in Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition. Like, please. That's my argument there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, as for the Game of the Year ones, it's kind of what I expected it all to be. So I haven't, the only one out of the actual Game of the Year that were nominated, the only one that I've played is Animal Crossing. So I don't know if I have the right to replace any of them. I think they all are probably better than whatever else I've played.
If I buy you
year.
Ori, will you play it?
Oh, I don't. Eventually, I haven't finished Golf Story, Donnie.
If I gave you Game Pass Ultimate for $20,
it's okay. These are all on my I will play them eventually list. You know it is. I'll get there. That's another one. People have been pushing on me that I will enjoy it and love it and cry at it.
Ori's incredible, and I personally hate it. As I told Jeff Grubb, I personally hate it that it's not on the list. And I realize that the folks that vote on the list don't care about it as much as I do, but how that game is not even listed is shocking to me. It's so
I'm surprised
good.
that didn't get nominated over Hades. Usually they do the one indie kind of to put in the Game of the Year. I don't know. It was a toss-up.
Yep.
Kyle also wanted to know, what is one game or series you have not played but would love to play sometime in your gaming career? Gonna go ahead and say Ori.
Good answer. Andre, I'm interested to know, you play so many games. What's the one that you haven't played?
Not as many as you probably think these days. I probably actually Final Fantasy VII Remake. I mean, I guess I've played a Final Fantasy game before, but I feel like it's been so long. It's effectively a new series now. And 7 Remake looks like it might be the one to give a shot. So probably that.
Garrett?
For me, Mass Effect. I have not played a single Mass Effect game, and thank goodness that the remake of the trilogy is coming out next year.
Gary, you were gonna love Mass Effect.
That's what I hear all the time, and it's like this is like the most RPG you can get. It's sci-fi, and I'm sure I'll really enjoy it. I don't know how I missed it, to be honest with you. I'm a 360 person, and it's like these games totally flew by me. But yeah, definitely those games.
I'm gonna say Terra Rising. Atelier
Oh my
Ryza.
gosh.
Atelier Ryza.
Oh my god, it took me a
Rises.
while to realize what you were saying.
Atelier Ryza.
Atelier Rises.
You know that's a Koei Tecmo game, right? You love that company, right? I'm just saying.
This is like some PSVG lore that
Yeah,
you gotta
Andre,
know.
he rips me apart because I play this game. And I tell Donnie all the time that this is his favorite game of all time.
He's talked to me about 40 minutes about how he's grinding up every weapon, and he's over here whining about fusing weapons. Just saying.
Better mechanic. Just saying. I'll defend it.
West 3DP wants to know, do you think we will get any Zelda news at the Game Awards in December?
Wow. I want to say yes.
Oh, you got some inside info?
No, I have no insight into this. I think it's possible. I think next year is finally going to be Breath of the Wild 2's year, so it would probably make sense to show it off, especially now that Age of Calamity is out. That's the only thing that's giving me a slight hesitation, though. Is like maybe it's still too close for them because like by the time of the Game Awards, Age of Calamity will have been out for 2-3 weeks at most.
Yeah.
So, but then again, Nintendo's always been on right on to the next thing. So I think there's a chance. I wouldn't bet on it, but it's possible. So
that's a good way of putting it. I wouldn't bet on it either. I'm a little concerned. Who knows? I think you're right. I think this year was the year. I think, this year was the year for Breath of the Wild 2. The question is, how much has COVID impacted that year? Right. So
significantly, I'm sure. Yeah.
Right. So that would be the big question. Are they ready to show it? Are they ready to do it again? Especially with like E3 kind of up in the air and stuff. Like they can do their own direct whenever they want, but they've always typically supported the Game Awards with at least a big announcement.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't last year really disappointing? I can't remember anything that they announced last year. I know they did, but I can't tell you what it was.
Was it Marvel game there that?
Oh, it might have been.
Yeah, I've lost track of time. But
in years past, they've done like Tropical Freeze. They've done Breath of the Wild. They've done several games there in the past.
I mean, there was the year where they showed off Zelda Wii U on a screen like 12 feet away from the camera.
True. It could be. I don't know.
I think it's more believable to like release as a trailer randomly, like in the middle of the Game Awards, not even part of the Game Awards. Just like, here's a trailer in our YouTube. Mm-hmm. There it is.
Would they do it? Let me ask you this. Would they do it if they were also going to showcase any Bayonetta info?
Oh, I don't think so.
It's one or the other. They wouldn't do both.
If that was the case, then I would almost make the claim that I think Bayonetta could be shown first then. Because it's been a while. Like, we haven't seen anything.
It's been like
Bayonetta.
2 or 3 Game Awards
3 years
ago.
Yeah.
So, like, I could see that being, like, the big surprise. Like, let's get people excited about Bayonetta again.
Usually at the Game Awards, it's something that, because it's a much different audience, I think, than what would tune into a typical Nintendo Direct. So you're right, they would want something that's going to hit, a broader audience there, I think. So yeah, I would say one of those two if they do anything that exciting. We kind of already answered that next one. Lower Legend wants to know if there's a PlayStation exclusive that deserves the Musa game treatment.
Why did you ask this here?
You can't escape those questions, Donnie. You can't escape
He's forcing the PlayStation upon you.
What about a God of War Musa?
Oh my gosh.
Please stop right there. Please stop.
I'm just going to leave it alone. I thought this was hilarious that he asked us this. Why is he asking
I think
us
that's
this
a Donnie question to just pick on you.
Yeah, I get it.
Zach threw us some between Wind Waker / Twilight Princess this or that. He wanted to know, well, first of all, which is the better game? We know Donnie's answer.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we were going to go through all of them together and then answer.
Oh, do we want to go through all of them
so
first?
So he says, which is the better game? Which is your favorite? And which had the most epic battle? Death of Ganondorf. So yes, Wind Waker is my favorite Zelda. So I will say it's the better game because it is the better game. It's by far a better game. It has better adventure. It has definitely a better story. My favorite is the Wind Waker, and I think it has the most epic battle. Dude, it has Shogun Ganondorf. Are you kidding me? Like that final scene in Wind Waker is stellar. It's so damn good. The people whining about those cartoony graphics, and they look amazing. I would do a whole Wind Waker anime in that style. Are you kidding me? Like,
that
it looks,
would be cool.
Yeah, it looks incredible. So that's my answer, Wind Waker. What about you, Andre?
What are we comparing? I totally missed the first
Wind Waker and Twilight Princess.
In 3 categories, or
better, favorite, final boss fight.
Oh man, I think Wind Waker probably take it across the board. I'm not a huge Twilight Princess fan. I wasn't a huge Wind Waker fan either till the HD version, but I really enjoyed that one. I would say though, I think I'd probably get the final battle. I actually might end up giving that to Twilight Princess. I think I thought building up to the giant pig Ganon was fun. Was that the final battle? No, that wasn't the final. It was part of the final battle, but I thought the sequence for Twilight Princess was probably a little bit more epic overall. Though it is hard to top the very end of how Wind Waker concludes.
That waterfall.
Garrett?
Yeah.
Zelda.
Pretty good.
You guys know me. I have not played these two games, and I wish I did. Okay, I never had a Wii U, and I'm sorry.
The prodding is you got to.
I got to. Okay, this or that. You know what?
No, you've got to play them. You've got to play
Oh,
them.
I gotta play them. Sounds good. Okay, I will.
Yeah, I would probably mostly agree with what Andre is saying. Yeah, Wind Waker is the better game. It is my favorite of the two. I'm not really a big Twilight Princess fan either. I think the death of Ganondorf specifically is more epic in Wind Waker, but the lead up to the whole final battle in Twilight Princess is probably one of the most epic of all of the Zelda games, and that's coming from someone who really doesn't even like Twilight Princess all that much. Yeah, I would say, if we had to say all, I would say Wind Waker sweeps it.
Okay. We have got a couple more questions that look like they're specific for Andre.
They are specific for Andre.
pressure.
Romulo wants to know what your favorite Sonic game is.
Wow, I feel that's a troll question for me. My favorite Sonic game is actually Sonic Colors. I had a blast with that game.
It's a really good one.
It is really good. I really hope that they update that at some point or make a sequel. It was a lot of fun. So yeah, Sonic Colors.
And then Wild wants to know, Andre, how would a Stunt Race FX Warriors game play like?
I actually have an answer for this. There's actually a mode in Stunt Race FX that's basically it's you versus everyone else, like in an arena. You're just ramming into people. I'm like, there we go. that's the Warriors game. You're just driving into other cars, sending them flying.
Excellent.
It'd be amazing.
That wraps up our questions for this week.
Great. Well, that's going to do it for us here in the Nintendo Shack. We'd like to give thanks once again to Andre from GameXplain for dropping by the Nintendo Shack and hanging out with us as we talk Age of Calamity. And on behalf of Rebecca, Garrett, and myself, we'll catch you next week, Koopalings.
Bye-bye.